Good afternoon, welcome back. This is Mark Dickinson, Gulf Business Academy. I'm so excited to have you on the show, and today I have a fantastic guest. His name is Ziad Kamel. Ziad owns many businesses here in Dubai, and he is the serial entrepreneur. So Ziad, great warm welcome to you, and please, why don't you kick off by telling us what you do?
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be on the Gulf Business Academy show. I am the owner of several restaurants. My French bistro is called Kouklé. It's in Dubai. It's a beautiful little restaurant that takes you away to Paris. I also own a delivery-only restaurant company called Cloud Restaurants. We have 5 brands operating now in the United Arab Emirates. Those brands are Go Greek, Go Healthy, Go Chinese, Go Noodle, and Go Pasta. These are 100% delivery-only online restaurants that can be ordered from through specific aggregator apps. So we're on the online food business.
Brilliant. Ziad, when did you begin this journey?
Oh, wow. I began this journey by opening my first business in 2005.
Wow. And
So
where was that?
That was in Beirut, Lebanon. I was 24 years old, and I decided that I wanted to open my own business. After working in a multinational company for less than a year, I knew that my destiny was to own my own business. So while I had a job, I decided to open up a bar and a lounge bar, 2 businesses at the same time. And that's exactly what I did.
And so what was the spark that made you jump out of being in an international company and taking the risk to go alone?
I think the spark was always there as I was growing up. I always wanted to open up my own business. I really wanted to try and make my own money. I remember my earliest memories of wanting to be productive is when I was around 8 or 9 years old, and we were vacationing in Cyprus over the summer at this pool resort, and I went up to the manager there and I asked him if he had any work for me, and I would be happy to work there and get paid. So I think just that act of creation was always in me. I really wanted to start doing something when I was in university, but of course I was focused on my studies. So I was always looking for the next best thing. And I got a job before I even graduated from doing my master's, so it was in parallel to completing that. And literally when I stepped into the office, I was excited because I got my first job, but I knew then and there that I needed to act on that spark that always existed within me. I needed to open my own business.
That's fantastic. Ziad, in all this time, so that's about 15 years now you've been running your own businesses. What was the greatest moment? What would you say was like, this was the highlight?
Wow, that's a very, very good question, and a very challenging question to answer, because opening a business or businesses is like a roller coaster. So whenever you feel that you're on a high, in hindsight, that high was just one of the highs. And it's more like a roller coaster. It means lots of ups and lots of downs. So there are many memorable moments for me where I felt absolutely great. But those moments don't last very long, because there are also moments when you're completely destroyed and demoralized as well. So it's the whole mix of emotions that comes with owning and operating a business. But there are many moments, like every time I open a new business, and it goes from creating something in my mind to implementing it, and it being accepted in the market, and people start buying that product or service, or reacting well to it, or visiting the restaurant, or buying online. All of those moments, specifically when they're just new and released, are absolutely amazing.
Brilliant. Well, Ziad, I've had the privilege to dine in Kuklay many times. And one of the things that I've noticed is pretty much the same faces serve every time I go there. Could you tell me what is your secret to having the same people for such a long period of time?
I guess the secret is not really a secret, but it's just hard work day in and day out. And we have to realize we are in the people's business. We're not in the food business per se. If you wanted to eat, Mark, you could go to a supermarket or you could order online, right? You can order your supermarket shopping online and you'll eat. So the business we're in is the people's person. So as soon as we start looking at it through the angle of people, then that changes everything. And I'm not just talking about the people who are our customers. I'm talking first and foremost about our team members, right? They need to be subscribed to the vision, to the objectives. They need to understand why they're doing what they're doing and not just be told to do a process. So I think putting together a team is a very interesting and challenging exercise for anyone and any team. That could be a sports team or it could be a team at work. It could be a team of scientists or it can be a team of whatever team you want, right? That is very challenging and the dynamics of the team have to work well. So I think that emotional intelligence should be high. I think that understanding how people interact with each other should not be neglected. And I think that building a solid culture based on ownership and based on people liking what they do at work, being open about it, and letting their personality shine is very important. And another thing I believe brings a lot of happiness to the workplace is direct relationship between effort and reward. So we have many incentives in place and we share a lot of information with our partners, with our team members, so that they understand their personal impact on the business and how the business is performing. And they feel ownership because when the business does well, we all do well, right? Remuneration is tied not just to a fixed amount. So I think all of those things put together allow us to have very low retention and allow us to build a team that is oozing with personality.
I think you mean low turnover, high retention, no?
Yes, exactly. Low turnover.
So Ziad, we can't run away from the fact that today we're in a crisis. Your public establishments are closed at the moment, and we're challenged. So my question today is, for you, as the crisis comes to an end, what comes next? What is your vision for what happens at the end of the crisis?
So yeah, like you said, crisis is short term. Vision is long term. So at the moment, we are coming out of the short term crisis management, and there are a lot of things that we're doing for that. However, the vision after this, it's not going to be the same world anymore after this crisis. I think that the world as we know it in many different industries is going to change dramatically. They're already referring to kids being born and brought up in this generation, Generation C, because the world that as we know it is not going to be the same. I think that there will be many, many losers, but at the same time, all crisis breeds innovation and a lot of opportunities come after crisis.
So what do you see as the new business structure post-crisis? How will it affect the way you run your business?
I believe a lot of focus on online is going to be prevailing in all industries, specifically ours. We started our online restaurant delivery only business about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And there were a lot of doubters at that time. People were saying that you can never replace the experience. People don't want to order from a business that isn't bricks and mortar. They can't build trust with a customer unless they go and you touch and feel and experience the restaurant. Pretty much the same kind of talk that was happening in all other industries that successfully made the leap online. So I think we're in a strategic position now where we are continuously looking on innovating our online restaurants in order to capitalize for the future. I think the future is going to bring people closer together, even when they're sitting at home like you and I are now. I think education and universities and schoolings are going to change. Our whole outlook is going to change now with this e-learning. The same with any other industry, and especially restaurants now. We are innovating our Couclet, our French bistro, which is heavily reliant on experiential aspect of people coming in, experiencing it. We're taking that experience to people's houses. We're developing burger and steak free kits that people can order and cook at home, with our instruction, with the same sort of experience that they may get in a restaurant.
Fantastic.
So those are some of the things that we're doing.
So Ziad, you are a strategic thinker. How are you going to get the talent to think with you strategically, taking business forward, and who is going to participate in this decision-making process is going to create the new future business that you're talking about?
I think that, again, comes down to building a team. What we're realizing now is the younger, more tech-savvy people who we hire, the ones who are just coming out of school or university now, the ones who are anywhere between the ages of 18 and 21, those are the people who we need on our team to help us think this forward. They're fresh, they're coming out of a generation where all they know is online. And then we talk about not millennials. Millennials are like dealing with kids now and approaching 40. We're talking about Gen Zs and before that. So, they are going to be our future clients as well. So we need to hire people who have that experience within them, and people who aren't afraid to share their opinion and to subscribe to our vision, and people who can clearly see what we're seeing in the future and create ways to implement it as efficiently as possible.
Excellent, thanks. I have another question for you. During this period, we have obviously had a very intensive focus on managing costs and managing expenses. So how do you see management of costs and expenses going forward post-crisis? The crisis is over, business starts up. How will that change or affect the way you manage your costs after the crisis?
See, anyone who's gone through a crisis before understands that managing costs is extremely important. Managing cash flow and liquidity is extremely important. Cash is king, so liquidity is king, and that still holds today. The businesses that are not going to reopen after this crisis are the ones who don't have liquidity or don't have any cash reserves. So I think that there will be a very expensive lesson learned across the world today after this crisis, that managing cash and accumulating cash and having cash buffers is extremely important to survive any sort of crisis. And that means being frugal, right? That means changing the way we do things. For example, a lot of companies that spend a lot of money on business travel now are going to relook at their books and say, during the crisis, we didn't travel and we managed to work. We could get on video conferencing and we can do our 3-hour meeting or 2-hour meeting or 2-day meetings.
But do you think they will rechannel that money into, well, let me ask a different question. Where do you think they would rechannel that money? Because that's obviously going to be a big saving to a lot of companies. Where will they put that money in the future?
I think they should focus on innovation. A lot of companies now have been kicked in the butt to innovate their products and services. They were hesitant before, they were too busy, they were focused on their current operations or their current modus operandi. They didn't have time for online or what have you. There's so many different excuses, right? Those are all excuses. I think today, what you're seeing in the restaurant businesses, the restaurants in Dubai that have had the privilege to always win the top awards and be the best in fine dining and be the best restaurant to go to and have waiting lists and kind of have the privilege to be pretentious and pick their customers. And they have all resisted home delivery because of so many reasons. Today, what you see is all of them now innovating ways and going online and signing up to all the aggregators, offering delivery and singing a completely different tune. So if you take that as an example, no matter what industry you're in, I think that any cost savings in the future should be allocated to creating a buffer, enough of a cash buffer in the company to be able to survive a crisis. And that cash buffer should be the extra cash created by cutting costs shouldn't go towards shareholders or profits or paying out profits. There should be enough of a buffer for the company to be able to sit for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, maybe a whole year without any revenue generation, right? So there's the part of the money should go there, and the other part should go to innovating different revenue streams and creating different revenue streams.
Great, Ziad, brilliant insight. What do you think is the game-changing thought that comes out of this moment for you? Like, what is the big learning, if you will?
The big learning is that no matter how stable you think you are, no matter how much you think you planned, all of that is absolutely garbage.
Listen, you're a highly engaged CEO. How do you see your role changing post-crisis? You get back to work. Will it impact the way you work as the CEO, or will business as usual for you?
Well, that depends. If we come out of this successfully, then it's different than if we don't come out of this successfully. But I think it'll impact the way I work. Now, I've been maybe privileged to have some businesses in Lebanon before I moved to Dubai around 6 years ago, and Lebanon is full of crisis management. So I guess it's not my first rodeo in crisis management. So I've taken the very difficult and painful lessons learned there and I applied it here to a more stable market where people aren't used to this level of crisis. I think what will continue is we're going to be frugal on the way we manage our cash always. I think what I'm going to take with me is we're going to be quicker to try new things, to execute new ideas, to continuously push the boundary and innovate our business. I think innovation should always be key. We cannot rest on our laurels. So I think that's the main taking here.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. I want to shift our focus to customers. Yeah. Customers' behaviors are going to change because, as you said at the beginning, the world is going to change and the world is going to be a different place. What do you think will be the customer expectations regarding service post-crisis?
Well, I know what's going to be the norm for greeting one another. When are you going to give the next person a hug or a handshake, right? When are you going to stick yourself in a crowded room again? So everything, as we know, it's going to change. I don't know how long it's going to take for people to be able to go back to normal. And what's normal anyway? In terms of service, are people going to accept cramming themselves into a crowded bar or restaurant? Are they going to accept being seated less than 1 meter away from the next table? It's a difficult one to answer at the moment. We're just going to have to wait and see because the end of the crisis is nowhere near in sight. So every day people's minds now are being formed. But I think when it comes to service, I think there's going to always be there's going to be a significant shift in leveling up when it comes to food safety and hygiene, when it comes to cleanliness, when it comes to sterilization. I think people are going to be very aware of that. So in the food and beverage industry, all the hygiene standards that we have today are going to have to be leveled up as the base. The entire base has to be up. People have to rebuild trust in every single industry, especially the food industry. I mean, this whole crisis started by one bad dish, right? One bad dish created an entire pandemic. So it kind of started in the restaurant or food industry. And so you can see what one terrible dish can do to the entire world. So we have to be very aware that people are now going to look at things completely different. And the service has to reflect that.
I have often heard people talking about millennials, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively, particularly employing millennials. And one of the questions I'd like to ask you, Ziad, is how do you see this whole moment affecting the value system of the millennials?
So look, I think millennials are anyone born in 1980 and above. So like these people are approaching 40 years old. So they're not really young anymore. I think people, when they hear the word millennial, they imagine like young 22, 23, 20-something-year-old person. So those are Gen Zs. So we have to differentiate millennials and Gen Zs. So I think that millennials had the, I think, luxury, or most of them, of growing up in the pre-digital and post-digital era. So they are flexible in both worlds. Gen Zs have been born just in a digital environment. So let's talk about these guys, because these guys are, I think, more important, because they were born digital. They swear by digital. They do everything online. They were born with social media. They had accounts when they were really young, 8 years old, 9 years old, 13-year-old, whatever, right? They're a Snapchat generation. They're the TikTok generation. These people will expect to have everything online, and I mean everything. And the service excellence has to now be translated to online. It can't be clunky customer experiences. It can't have a lot of friction. It has to be smooth. It has to answer their needs. It has to make sense. And that comes down to every single industry, right? And I think that's where we're all going. Connectivity, online, automation, innovation. I think that's the focus for any generation.
Brilliant. Well, Ziad, I'm ever the optimist, as you know. I believe that we will have a cure. I believe there will be a vaccine somewhere down the road. And there's going to be mass euphoria at that moment. What do you envisage happening whenever that happens?
So I don't think it's going to be an overnight victory or success over this crisis. I don't think there's going to be a single specific turning point. Different countries and different regions are going through it at different phases. So there are some countries now coming out of it and controlling it, and others it's just beginning. So I think this thing is here to stay for the next 12, 18, 24 months. We're still going to be hearing about it. It's still going to affect the world in some shape or form, and different regions at different times. So there's not going to be one single victory point. Even if a vaccine is declared to be effective, it can't be dispatched globally overnight. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of patience. So it's going to be a gradual thing. And I think that also is true of the economy and all industries. It's going to take a lot of time for the economy to readjust itself, for the businesses that fail to just fail, and for the ones that innovate and the new businesses that come online to actually start making an impact in the world. So I think that this thing is going to play out over the next 12 and 18 months, and not any time before.
Brilliant. Well, Ziad, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Any other thought that came to mind?
Thank you so much. I think we covered everything. I think that you're doing a wonderful job interviewing people like this and getting the word out. I can't wait to see what all your other guests on your show have had to say, because I think now, like, the trove of information and treasure with all the wonderful people you're having on your show. So thank you for that.
It's a pleasure. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this feed. I hope that you're getting plenty of value out of the Gulf Business Academy. Please let us know if you want to be a part of our show. write in, just tell us your thoughts, and please always comment, share, and just make this your feed. We want to bring great information to you from thought leaders like Ziad and the other guys on the show. So thanks a lot for being part of it, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks a lot.